Welcome to the Crafted Conversation, the voice of the crafted concept, brought to you by me, Marcus Sharrod. The Crafted Conversation is my opportunity to speak and give credence to guests from the world of education, educational leadership, elite leadership in general, and of course elite sport, for instructors, those interested in instructional methods and imparting learning, to come and explore, be curious and be open-minded, how we can, as instructors, be better in the way that we package learning for our elite athletes and our pupils. The crafted concept is underpinned by the idea of a learning environment, what that environment, what the culture, what the setting looks like. Learning design, so how we actually piece together what our considerations are around the way that we package that learning piece. And finally, learning critique. How open are we, how curious are we to find out what our learners actually know? How can they be flexible in the way they apply what they know? How has that learning become durable? And the same for our pupils, and indeed for our colleagues, for those of us that are acting in leadership positions. So without further ado, we'll get on with today's episode of the Crafted Conversation. Welcome back to my regular listeners. Good to have you. Let's get on with it. So in today's episode, I'm here to talk about the importance of questions, the importance of questioning as a method of eliciting feedback, of gaining information about what our pupils, what our learners, what our athletes actually know, how they can apply what they know, and actually, depending on the depth of the question, the amount of thought process that's gone into that question, then as instructors, what can we gain, what can we glean from our processes, our learning design, which is actually effective or potentially ineffective. There are lots of ways in which our cognitive biases, as we know, as I speak about so often on the podcast and through the newsletter, our biases can really afflict us as human beings. That sort of System 1 and System 2 thinking from Daniel Kahneman's groundbreaking book, Thinking Fast and Slow. It's our quick thinking, it's our System 1, in the moment, fill the gaps, method of cognition and method of processing actually that causes those biases, where we say to ourselves, oh yeah, they must know that. And in addition, that curse of the expert, just because you have such a nuanced understanding of how tactically you want to play with and without possession, in transition, the different ways in which you transition in and out of possession in different areas of the pitch, the knowledge that you have about applying lever systems to biomechanical principles in the human body, for all my physical educator colleagues out there. The curse of the expert states that our biases, our System 1 thinking will say to us, yeah, but you've explained that really well. You linked second class lever not only to the ankle but also to a wheelbarrow. You smashed that, you're fine. First class lever, pair of scissors, they know what a pair of scissors are. Lovely, we move on. It's where that expertise almost holds us back and causes those System 1 biases to creep in, and we don't actually elicit the right type of feedback, the right knowledge that we need about our learners to be able to go forward and say, truly, I know where they're at. I know how durable, how flexible, malleable and applicable the learning that I've imparted upon them is, so that in that scenario, in the 63rd minute of the match, when you need your central midfielder to track a certain runner or to fill a certain hole, because that's what they do out of possession when XYZ is also out of position, or the fullback's high, or whatever it is, then because you know that and you're screaming it in your mind from the sideline, from the technical area, it doesn't mean that they know it unless we know that they know it or not. And that's where questions are essential. Before we continue, a shout to the podcast partner, Keynote Educational. Keynote are there for anyone looking for their continuous professional development in 2025. I'm talking educational leaders, heads of department, aspiring heads of department, teachers and experts in certain subjects. Keynote has a course for you. You can sign up using the code CRAFTED10. That's CRAFTED, CRAFTED 10, as in 10, not TEN. CRAFTED 10, 10 being the number. sign up to any in-person course or conference online with Keynote Educational and add that crafted 10 code, and you can get 10% off your entry to that particular course or conference across the course of this Lent term. Everyone will be looking to hopefully get out there, spend a day out, set some cover, and get yourself into a hotel in Manchester or in London and go and learn from an expert in your field about your subject, about how it's assessed, about how the NEA is applied and marked and administered. As I say, Keynote has the course for you. So get online, keynoteeducational.co.uk, and Crafted 10 will get you 10% off your in-person course or in-person conference. So back to it today, and I want to continue by talking about questions by actually trying to sort of dig out my own profession and say that I'm not sure that the the metrics by which we measure our education system are doing a good enough job of foregrounding curiosity and innovation through questioning than they are through measuring outcome by performance and by responding to questions, by getting things right or wrong. I think there's a real, I find myself conflicted by that kind of like binary aspect of that is right and that is wrong, when actually we know that questions are the things that drive innovation and help progress us as professionals, dare I say it, as a society, as a human race, because they challenge our assumptions and can identify problems and draw out and elicit responses which, had the question not been asked and not been asked in the right way, then we would never have known. You know, what if Netflix never asked the question, why do we need to go and rent a DVD or VHS for those of you old enough? Why do we have to do that? Or why, if Bezos had never said, why do I need to go to a library to get a book? Why can't I use this new thing called the internet? If people don't ask questions, then innovation is impossible. And yet, not only the education system, but work environments so often prioritize answers, responses. We must give an answer. We must have an answer to everything, that actually curiosity is stifled. And you kind of see that when you're dealing with people on a personal and professional level. You know, listeners to the podcast and those that engage with the newsletter know well that my stance as a performance coach, a qualified coach, it's my job to try and tease out and elicit responses from those that I work with or the performance environments that I'm involved with, that I don't have the answer. And actually the answer's inside of you, but to find it, you don't need me to bulldoze all over your processing, your cognition, your life world with mine. Like, I shouldn't have the answer to your question. It's my job just to try and help you discover it, unearth it. And yet, by foregrounding response and giving a response and being right about something, we stifle that curiosity. And actually, by having a curious mindset, by having a culture of curiosity, of open-mindedness, then that's how we can truly create change. And I think to do so, questions are really interesting, aren't they? Because most people will have done some form of training in a professional environment, those university educated, or not even, where you're asked who, what, where, why, how questions. Not yes or no answers. Don't say, oh, did you this or did you that? Yes, no. Try and tease out a little bit more. Ask why. What prompted that behaviour today? How do you feel? But in our professional environments, in an elite environment, why questions are a great place to start, because they identify root causes. So why is it that we want to play that way? Why is it that you're so tied to one holding midfielder, two holding midfielders? Why is it that we learn the syllabus in that way, in that order? Why is the curriculum built that way? Oh, because that's how we've always done it. So what? Yeah, but why have we always done it that way? why is a great place to start? Why is so open? It's so willing to give you something new or to reaffirm what it is that you do. But why questions are a great place to start. And then, okay, let's explore alternatives here. If X were to occur, what would that mean? Or what if we didn't have to go physically to a Blockbuster to go and get a DVD? What if we considered playing with a high wing back on one side and another tucked into a midfield position? And it's by asking what ifs then we can go, okay, let's explore some possibilities here. What if we chose to deliver the curriculum in this way? And then finally, how would that impact the stakeholder? How would that impact the pupils? What if we delivered our mock exams then? What if we decided to move the position of our coursework, non-examined assessment, from then to then? How would that impact the pupil? How would that impact what we'd already taught them in the curriculum? How would that impact the way that we built the delivery of that non-examined assessment? What would we have to teach them that would be different for it to be done at that time of year? What if we asked our players to give some feedback, individual feedback, every single time we do game analysis on the team performance, in possession, out of possession, on their individual role? How would that impact the players? Do they have the skill set to be able to do that? Do they have the skill set to be able to eloquently deliver that? Okay, maybe they do, maybe they don't. How can we help? What more can we do? I love the idea of almost being playful with questions as well. I think it's great in a way, you know, with performance athletes that I work with, in elite football clubs, individual Olympic sports, in my classroom with my pupils, asking things like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, if 10 is there and 1 is there, where are you now? Oh, I'm 6. Okay, what's an 8 look like? What's a 2 look like? What is a 10? Is a 10 achievable? How can we make 10 achievable? Being playful and kind of questioning almost to generate that willing and curious interest in how to develop performance is essential. And that can be done at an individual level. It can be done at a unit level if we're talking about different positions on the pitch. It can be done at a small group level, a team level. It can be done at management level if we're talking about colleagues. To actually, you know, imagine, picture myself in my head of departments meeting with 30 odd people, and then the very best times, the very best engagement that I can picture are where on regular occasions we are actually, rather than being spoken at, we're being asked to respond to something. We're being asked questions. We're being given a proposal paper with 5 different questions on it that says, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And not only does that, what that does that's really interesting, and I've seen this in performance environments, particularly in football clubs, work that I've done in football clubs to try and foreground the player's voice and the player's perspective that says, we're asking you questions. 1, there's an accountability piece here. I expect you to respond to those questions. I expect you to have thoughtful and willing responses. But 2, I utterly trust you. And I'm looking forward to hearing your response. This is a safe environment in which your personal agency, your perspective and lens on this is important to me, and I'm looking forward to hearing it. Isn't that mad? Just a question, just putting a question mark on the end of something can do that, and yet it can. This is a brief pause in today's crafted conversation to talk about how the crafted concept, the overarching business that supports the crafted conversation, both in newsletter and in podcast form, can best support you in your performance environments. The crafted concept has experience working in the education and elite sports sectors through performance coaching for individuals or for teams, the learning environment, by focusing on those 3 pillars of the crafted concept of performance, learning environment, learning design, and learning critique. Contact me directly because I can help you, as I have done on many occasions, developing a sense of cohesion within the team. Performance coaching aims to drive individuals and teams to excel. And as a performance coach, I am an expert in areas of teaching and learning, instructional design, motivational psychology, team development, performance culture and environment, and performance mindset. It's my job to generate activities, use questioning, listening, observing, probing techniques to deliberately seek feedback and present opportunities for lateral thinking and inspire growth and ideas for you as an individual or for the performance of the team and the collective. The crafted concept is your accountability partner, is your critical observer. I'm able to draw upon experiences as an expert teacher and instructor and as an expertly qualified executive coach, performance coach with over 100 hours worth of coaching experience. As a coach developer in elite sport, I can support and guide coaches through the complexities of your professional development, of your professional environment, offering structure and assisting you in refining your skills through learning environment, learning design, and learning critique. Contact me directly, Marcus at thecraftedconcept.co.uk, or look me up on LinkedIn, Marcus Sharrod. If we can even look at problems in a different way, everyone experiences problems. Problems are normal. Problems are part of our daily professional lives. But rather than looking at them as something that needs to be immediately solved, I've got to solve it, because that's what Western society foregrounds. It says we need to be problem solvers. You need to give advice, give alternatives, make a plan. Now, go. Quick. Everything. Action quickly. That's that kind of, I don't know, what is it? That quick wins, rags to riches, kind of like, I don't know, capitalist lens, whatever you want to call it. It's go for it and do it now. But actually, let's just sit with it. Let's ask questions about this problem. Let's find out, is this the problem? Or is the problem not the problem? The problem's caused by a deeper problem. And without asking questions and reframing it with a kind of explorative, curious mind, then unexpected solutions or indeed unearthing deeper issues will not come to pass. A great example from, what is the book? I've just been listening to it. Robert Sapolsky, Behave. It's a big old beast of a book, but my goodness, would I recommend it. He talks about the fact that through a kind of longevity study, it was found that there was a genuine kind of beyond standard deviation impact on the way that judicial judges passed their judgment, whether or not it was just before or just after lunch. Talk about that problem and reframe that problem from a place of curiosity. Is you go, how harsh is someone judged at 11 a.m. versus 2 p.m? And it's purely based on the fact that that individual that's passing that judgment is getting hungry. They don't recognise a problem, a deeper problem there, that if you don't ask questions, you're not curious, you don't create a longevity study, goodness knows who did that study or how it was funded, that you realise, actually, we need to add a sort of break at around 10 o'clock where someone has a decent snack, a decent bit of grub, because the way that they're being judged here to here from 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock is so vastly different. Curiosity then, it fuels good questions. And one of the biggest issues around the idea of being able to ask questions is, as we get older, as our sort of, I don't know, youthful exuberance, primary school kind of just say it, because how brilliant are kids at questions? They ask everything all the time, constantly, and dig us out all the time with things that we can't answer. But as we get older, of course, that sense of kind of like societal judgment, where do I sit within the hierarchy of this classroom, of this dressing room? Oh, I can't ask that because I might sound stupid, or different ways in which the culture defines the learning environment, defines how your questioning, your ability to pitch up is measured, is judged. Was there a time that a coach absolutely ripped into someone for asking a question of them because that coach saw that as some sort of attack on their own identity? It's that fear of a sense of kind of like ignorance for what the environment believes in, or where there is capital, where there's kind of a measure, a positive measure, social capital, cultural capital within the environment around questioning, is really important to be aware of, because people's fear of looking silly means that so many times inquiry-based questioning, curiosity, explorative questions are suppressed, they're held back. And so it's our job as leaders and kind of those who are in charge of environments to do a really, really cognizant, self-awareness job on foregrounding questions. And there's no better way to do that than to constantly ask them of other people, because then it says, look, I'm looking for answers all the time, and so should you be. Or even just explicitly ask, what questions do you have? And what a difference that makes as well. I do this a lot. Since that kind of additional, quite intensive training around the idea of questioning for coaching and for developing people, how many times have we been in environments where instruction has been given and then it's followed with, any questions? Anyone got any questions? Now that's quite an aggressive, really, when you think about it. Anyone got any questions? Or can we carry on? Versus, what questions have you got? What are you going to come up with, or what's come to pass in your mind just now that you need to ask me? You must have questions. Everyone here must have at least one question. Or even in advance of delivering the instruction, write down, and in every single one of you must write down a question. And even though this takes a few minutes longer at the end of your team meeting, or at the during your classroom instruction, everyone write down a question. Okay, go around the room, find out who's got similar questions. Put them together, do a really miniature thematic analysis. Right, what are our meta questions? What are the main 3, 4, 5 things that have come up right now that you need to ask me, so that we can make sure that everyone is on the level before we move on here? What a difference that makes. That's me as an instructor coming with curiosity, arriving with a sense of inquiry, rather than delivering what I need to deliver to do my thing, to be the one in charge, to be the instructor within that power relation, then go, any questions? Any questions? Really interesting. And finally, I think when it comes to sort of, question methodology or types of questions that you can ask, then it's really essential that we consider some different parameters. So you might ask questions for clarification. What do you mean by that? What's the real challenge here? What else is the challenge? And what else is the challenge? Okay, now we've got everything on the table because you've got no more answers. Which of these is the most important if you ranked it? Or sometimes we might want to ask questions to challenge, to kind of tease out, okay, why is it that you're behaving in that way? Why do we do it that way? What if you did it differently? What other options are available to you? Then there's that kind of creative aspect. What if we played with just 2 at the back? What impact would that have? With the ball, without the ball? How many holding midfielders would we need? What would the role of the fullback be? The wing back? What if we played such a high line that we were tried to be inside their half, advance the line beyond their half every time? What impact would that have? What would the keeper need to do? And sometimes that level of creation might be ridiculous. It might not work, but at least by exploring it, you know what wouldn't work, what's worth exploring, and have a full picture. The full picture, without just living within the confines of what's been done previously. I think classroom practice, we don't just need to live with. What if we gave them mini whiteboards? Everyone loves a mini whiteboard. What if they wrote on the tables? Wow, crazy. And then there's the sort of empathy-based questioning, about feeling. How would that feel? How would you feel if that happened? What would that look like from their perspective? How would you feel if you were the one that happened to? I think most important for any leader in a performance environment, be that elite sport, be that education, is the idea that we want our questions to lead somewhere. So rather than just being sort of almost having a philosophical lens on questioning, we're just going to keep asking questions until the universe gives us the answer. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep asking. Ask questions. There's also a level of realism that we're talking about dynamic, agile environments in education and in elite sport, where decisions do need to be made and actions do need to be processed. And so Yes, of course, I'm asking instructors to be really thoughtful around the way that you bring questions into your environment, celebrate them, create a culture around them, around curiosity, around exploration. However, we've got to get somewhere. So almost the most important question in the repertoire comes at the end that says, how are you going to make this happen? What needs to happen first to begin the chain reaction that this gets actioned? How can we do a soft run through or testing phase for this particular new idea? New way that we're going to deliver the non-examined assessment, new way we're going to build the curriculum, new way in which we're going to try and, press the ball in the mid-phase. How can we test that in a low-stakes environment? When can we do it next? What would that look like in training? What does the assistant coach need to know? What research can we do beforehand? Who can we speak to? Who can we watch? What video analysis can we do? When can that happen by? And that way we're making sure that although we lead with curiosity, we're always going somewhere. And then that somewhere, of course, would follow with questions around feedback of how did it work? What would we do differently next time? How did it work compared to what we were normally doing? Was it better? Was it worse? What potential does it have? Always questions. Because by adopting that approach, elite environments can become innovative, empathetic, and effective problem solvers. And problem solvers, especially ones at an environmental level, if everyone within the team is a problem solver, has the potential to problem solve in a flexible way, then we are going to push the needle on performance. And of course, that's what we're always about here at The Crafted Concept. The Crafted Conversation, also available in newsletter form by going to www.thecraftedconcept.co.uk and subscribe there, or indeed at the bottom in the show notes. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm Marcus Sharrod. We're on Instagram at thecraftedconcept_, and also YouTube, The Crafted Concept, where the weekly newsletter content goes up in video form. If anything today is of interest to you and you want to get in touch with questions, if your question is read out on the podcast, I will get in touch back with you for your free 30-minute performance coaching consultation as a result of your question being curious enough and interesting enough to have been read out and addressed on the podcast. And equally, if any of the work of the Crafted Concept in performance coaching and consultancy with a particular focus on teaching and learning environments, learning design, and how we critique that learning for performance is of interest to you in the education or elite sports sector, then do get in touch. And you can do so directly via email, marcus@thecraftedconcept.co.uk. See you next time.